Welcome guys, I want to do a walkthrough, a long overdue walkthrough of Mosaic. So obviously homepage, log in, sign in. This is where you're taken to at the moment, okay? So these are all features that I'll be rolling out over the next few months. In time, dashboard will be where you land, and that'll have fully customizable everything you need or want on there as a dashboard. But for now, we've just got the data lab and the guardrails live. So just quickly take you through that. So obviously data lab here, historical market analysis, Oz 200, UK 100, US 500. There's also Bitcoin and VIX, which for me personally, I use it as more of an overlay for those markets. Can obviously search columns data up here. So, if I want to search for, Asia session, etc., you'll find all that there. Clear the filters, customize columns. So you can set up different layouts. So there are about 110 columns in here, which are different time periods, different, filters, etc. So obviously it can get quite expansive across those 5 markets. So, if you only trade Aussie 200, or, you want to split it up in terms of looking at separate markets, this is a really good way to do it. Okay. So you just select the columns that you want to see and then save them as a layout. You choose the layout name there. So as I said, about 110 columns here, which can maybe feel overwhelming, and I will go into some other videos kind of breaking down the different markets, which hopefully will make it a little bit easier to understand. But just at a high level, obviously the day, I mean, this should be pretty self-explanatory. Any kind of major events, either globally, for me, which is the start of month, end of month, etc. And then specific to those markets, so generally, FOMC, CPI, any major data releases, things like that. The way I've structured it, and this is just purely the way that I look at markets, is for each market there is a sequential flow left to right. So we've obviously got the Aussie, the UK, the US, and then your Bitcoin and VIX. So Aussie is the first market or Asia, Aussie in this case, first market to open, okay? Then that flows into the London open, then the US, okay? So that's the way I've done it here. Within those markets, what I've done is put all the prior day data, again, left to right, again, flowing from global open through to global close for that day. Essentially what I find the flow is I'm trying to predict and look for patterns current day. So I want to know what's happened the prior day, and therefore I'll be able to see the patterns that exist today. Okay, so I might want to see, what happens today when XJO fell more than 150 points prior day. So again, if we want to do the filters here, obviously got a few options. Again, this is essentially just a skin on top of a Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel. So just allows you to play around with it, exactly what you want. So, in this case, we might go, okay, the Aussie XJ fell 200 points yesterday. Okay, what does that look like today? So obviously these are all the prior day columns, so we don't really want to be looking at that. But, this is really interesting. Just pulling this up out of nowhere, you can see 4 out of 4 times that initial open gap. You can also move columns around, as you've just seen. That initial open gap is positive 4 out of 4 times, okay? So again, what that says to me is XJO fell over 200 points yesterday. If you went long at whatever 7:59 a.m. this morning, historically you'd have 100% strike rate of closing out at 9:50 when the SPY reopens. You wouldn't want to hold through the pre-market because they've all reversed from there. Okay, so that was just one that I literally just pulled out there, but you can obviously just go through and kind of have a look. So, and then you kind of sequentially, what happens if the first 15 minutes is, red, then you kind of can see the pattern that generally happens under those conditions for the next hour, overnight, and so on. So that's all current day. Then we've got, overnight session for the Aussie and onwards from there. Similar for the UK FTSE, just each market as well. The last column is generally what the physical market did, okay, for that day. So again, UK, what happened prior day, what happened today. So you can use those filters to kind of look for patterns current day, or today's filters to look for patterns for the next day. And then onto the S&P, US 500, ES, whatever you'd like to call it, that market. So again, you can look for patterns prior day, what did Asia do prior day, etc., and then see how that historically has played out today. And again, we'll finish on the physical market here. Then we've got the VIX. The way that I look at the VIX is, again, using what happened yesterday as an overlay, particularly for the S&P, to see what happens today. So that's why all of these are prior days columns. Bitcoin, similar. Previous day, what's happened in the past, what's happening now, what then happens in the coming days. So you can always use, say Bitcoin rallied 5,000 points today. Well, I'd be filtering that and then looking at what's happened D+1, D+2, D+3 combined, etc. And you might see some patterns there, which, just using this example, XJO has fallen more than 200 points prior day. If you went long on Bitcoin, again, you would have made money 100% of the time if you sold it in 3 days' time, historically. Not financial advice, historical data only. So that's kind of the overview. Obviously, you got page sizes down here, the full record, things like that. Just to put that into context, just on a chart, it's probably the easiest way to map out the 3 sessions that I look at, and we'll just quickly dive into the user guide as well, which will map all this out. So just using yesterday as an example, this is Sydney time. So this is the US 500. Okay, so market reopens at 9 o'clock Sydney time. Okay, so from there through to when London opens, I've kind of lumped that into calling it Asia session. Okay, so basically 3 major markets: Asia, London, then US. Okay, so any reference to Asia session is this time period here from the open, 9 o'clock Sydney time currently. That may change shortly with daylight savings, but whenever Globex reopens through to whenever London opens. Now, first session London is the first 4 hours, so that will take you from 7 p.m. through to 11 p.m. And then the full session is from London Open to US Open. Okay, so at the moment that's from 7 p.m. Sydney through to 1 a.m. Sydney. And then obviously US session goes from 1 a.m. through to the close, which is at 8 a.m. Okay, so that's the flow each day, and then we start over again. So Asia Open is here. What else is there? So these features will be rolled out, as I said, coming, but at the moment, Data Lab guardrails, I'll go into more depth on these in a separate video, but for now, you just need to know that they're there. Library, I've started doing videos on the individual columns, so feel free to go through those. User guide, look, I know this is quite lengthy. This is basically 20 years of trading indices experience tried to put into one document, but it does go through each column and kind of tells you what it maps, what it captures, what the different columns that I kind of use together to map it out. So, a good way you could use this, just download it, put it into Claude or ChatGPT as a project in the memory or whatnot, and then you can just keep that on the side and just ask it questions, and it will spit it out for you. Other than that, obviously the settings will show you your plan, different markets you're on, things like that, and there's much more coming. But for now, guys, that is a brief walkthrough of the Data Lab.